Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of Luna Station. The cold metal walls around him buzzed with activity as officers worked at their stations. Outside the large windows, Earth hung in space like a blue and white marble. It looked peaceful from here. But Jake knew that peace was about to end. The communication screen in front of him flickered to life. An alien face appeared on the display. The creature had gray skin that looked like stone and 4 eyes that glowed with an orange light. Its mouth was a thin line across the bottom of its face. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire," the alien said. Its voice was cold and mechanical. "I speak for the Galactic Council." Jake kept his face calm, but his hands formed fists at his sides. The Galactic Council ruled most of known space. They were powerful, and they were cruel. No species had ever stood against them and survived. "The Council has watched your species spread across your system," Veltar continued. "You build colonies on Mars. You mine the asteroid belt. You send ships to Jupiter and beyond. This expansion cannot continue without proper tribute." Dr. Lisa Carter stepped closer to Jake. She was Earth's best expert on alien species and had spent years studying the Council. Her face was pale as she listened to the alien's words. "The demands are simple," Veltar said. "Your species will provide 40% of all mineral resources from your colonies. You will give 25% of all food produced on your worlds. Most important, you will send 100,000 humans each year to work in Council. Space." Jake felt his blood turn to ice. 100,000 people, every year, forever. "These are not requests," the alien continued. "These are commands. You have 6 of your months to comply. If you refuse, the Council will take what it needs by force." The screen went dark. The command center fell silent except for the hum of machines. Jake looked around at his officers. Their faces showed the same shock and anger he felt. Captain Ryan Brooks was the first to speak. He commanded Earth's defense ships and had fought pirates in the outer system for 10 years. "Admiral, they want to make us slaves." "That's exactly what they want," Lisa said. Her voice was quiet but firm. "I've studied the Council's history. They've done this to 17 other species in the past century. The ones who agreed to pay tribute became workers for Council worlds. The ones who refused were destroyed." Jake walked to the window and looked down at Earth. 7 billion people lived on that world. Millions more lived on Mars, the Moon, and space stations throughout the system. All of them were now in danger. "What kind of force can they bring against us?" Jake asked. Lisa pulled up files on her tablet. "The Council has ships from 12. Different species. Their smallest fleets have over 1,000 vessels. Their war fleets can crack planets open." Captain Brooks moved to stand beside Jake. "How many ships do we have?" 600 in active service, Jake replied. "Maybe 200 more in the reserves and colonial militias." The numbers were bad, very bad. But Jake had not become admiral by giving up when things looked impossible. "Get me President Santos," Jake ordered, "and call a meeting of all fleet commanders. We need to talk." 2 hours later, Jake sat in a secure video conference with Earth's leaders. President Maria Santos looked tired. She had been in emergency meetings since the alien message arrived. "The Council has given us an impossible choice," the president said. "We can become slaves or we can be destroyed." Secretary of State Paul Henderson leaned forward. He was an older man who believed in finding peaceful solutions. "Maybe we should consider their offer. If we comply, at least some of humanity will survive." General Tony Martinez slammed his fist on the table. He commanded Earth's ground forces and had never backed down from a fight. "We don't negotiate with alien bullies. If they want a war, we'll give them one." "With what?" Henderson shot back. "They have thousands of ships. We have hundreds. They have weapons that can destroy planets. We have missiles and lasers." Jake listened to the argument, but his mind was already working on plans. Earth's military had been preparing for this day for decades. Not openly, because that would have brought the Council's attention too soon. But quietly, in hidden bases and secret projects. There are things the Council doesn't know about us, Jake said. Everyone turned to look at him. We've been building more than just colony ships and mining vessels. Lisa nodded. She knew about some of the secret projects. The asteroid belt installations, the hidden weapons platforms. And more, Jake said. Much more. We knew this day would come eventually. Humans don't stay hidden forever. President Santos leaned back in her chair. Can we really fight them? And win? Jake thought about the question. The honest answer was that he didn't know. The Council was powerful beyond anything humanity had ever faced. But humans had something the Council didn't expect. They had the will to fight for their freedom, no matter the cost. I don't know if we can win, Jake said. But I know we can't live as slaves. And I know that if we're going to die, we should die fighting. The president was quiet for a long moment. Then she looked directly into the camera. Send our reply. To the Council, Admiral. Tell them that humanity doesn't pay tribute to anyone. Jake smiled for the first time since the alien message had arrived. Yes, ma'am. I'll send them our answer. As the meeting ended, Jake looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Council was preparing for war. They thought they were dealing with another weak species that would either surrender or be easily crushed. They were about to learn how wrong they were about humanity. 6 weeks had passed since the Council's message arrived. Commander Susan Blake floated in the zero gravity of Ceres Station, deep in the asteroid belt. Around her, workers in spacesuits moved between massive metal structures that looked like mining equipment. But Susan knew the truth. These weren't mines. They were weapons. Status report, Susan said into her radio. Sector 7 is online, came the reply from Chief Engineer Dan Parker. The mass drivers are loaded and ready. If anything comes through this belt without our permission, we can turn it into scrap metal. Susan smiled grimly. For 20 years, Earth had been building secret bases throughout the solar system. Every asteroid mining station had hidden weapons. Every cargo ship could become a fighter. Every space station was really a fortress. The Council thought they knew everything about human military strength. They were wrong. Captain Alex Turner's voice crackled over the communications system. Commander Blake, this is the Defiance. We're coming back from the outer system. You need to see what we found. Susan pushed off from the wall and floated toward the command center. The Defiance was Earth's most advanced scout ship. It could sneak past enemy sensors and watch from the dark between worlds. If Alex was calling for an emergency meeting, the news was bad. An hour later, Alex's ship docked with Ceres Station. Susan met him in the briefing room along with Dr. Benjamin Wright from Titan Research Station. Ben was Earth's top weapons scientist and the man who had designed their secret arsenal. Alex looked exhausted. His uniform was wrinkled and his eyes were red from lack of sleep. I made it all the way to Proxima Centauri, he said. The Council has a staging area there. What I saw will give you nightmares. He activated the hologram projector in the center of the table. 3-dimensional images filled the air above them. Susan had seen Council ships before in intelligence files, but these were different. They were huge, dark vessels that looked like they could swallow Earth's largest battleships. 2,000 ships, Alex continued. Maybe more. I saw planet crackers, gravity bombs, and shield generators the size of cities. They're not just planning to defeat us, they're planning to erase us. Ben leaned forward to study the images. Their technology is more advanced than our estimates suggested. Those shields use quantum resonance fields. Our standard weapons won't even scratch them. Susan felt a cold knot form in her stomach. So we can't hurt them? Ben's face split into a grin that made him look slightly crazy. I didn't say that. Come with me to my lab. I want to show you something special. They took a transport shuttle from Ceres to Titan Station. The journey took 6 hours, giving Susan time to think about what they were facing. The Council had ruled space for thousands of years. They had destroyed civilizations and enslaved entire species. What made humanity think they could be different? Titan Station orbited Saturn's largest moon. From the outside, it looked like a research facility studying the moon's atmosphere. Inside, it was the most advanced weapons laboratory in human space. Ben led them through corridors lined with blast doors and security scanners. They passed laboratories where scientists worked on projects that officially didn't exist. Finally, they reached a massive chamber at the station's heart. In the center of the room sat a device that looked like a crystal sculpture twisted into impossible shapes. Energy flickered through its surface in patterns that hurt to look at directly. "This is the quantum resonance disruptor," Ben said proudly. "It works by finding the harmonic frequency of enemy shields and reversing it. Instead of protecting the ship, the shields tear it apart from the inside." Alex whistled softly. "Does it work?" "We've tested it on captured Council technology," Ben replied. "It cuts through their shields like they're made of paper. The problem is building enough of them and getting close enough to use them." Susan studied the device. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. "How many do we have?" 50 prototype units installed on our best ships," Ben said. "We're building more as fast as we can, but we need rare elements that are hard to find." They were interrupted by an emergency signal from the communications center. Susan's aide, Lieutenant Pete Rogers, appeared on the screen. His face was pale with excitement. "Commander, you need to get back here immediately," he said. "We're getting reports from all over the system. Every hidden base, every secret installation, every underground facility is going active. The Admiral has given the order. We're mobilizing everything." Susan felt her heart start to beat faster. "Everything?" "Yes, ma'am. The Mars Colonial Militia is arming their cargo ships. The Jupiter Mining Corporation is fitting weapons to their freight haulers. Even the civilian transport companies are volunteering their vessels. We're not just fighting with the military. We're fighting with everyone." The journey back to Ceres took 4 hours. During the trip, Susan received constant updates on humanity's mobilization. Ships that had been disguised as civilian vessels were revealing their true nature. Asteroid bases were coming online with enough firepower to destroy small fleets. The entire solar system was transforming into a fortress. When Susan arrived at Ceres Station, she found Admiral Morrison waiting for her in the command center. He looked older than she remembered, with new lines around his eyes. The weight of command was heavy on his shoulders. "Susan," he said, "I need you to coordinate the belt defenses. When the Council arrives, this is where we'll make our first stand." "Sir, what about the peace negotiations?" Susan asked. "Is there any chance they'll accept our refusal and leave us alone?" Jake's laugh was bitter. "I just finished recording our official response to their demands. Want to hear it?" He played back the message he had sent to Council Space. His voice was calm and clear as it delivered humanity's answer. "To the Galactic Council and all who serve them, humanity rejects your demands for tribute. We will not surrender our resources, our people, or our freedom. If you want what we have, come and take it. But know that we will fight you with everything we have, and we will never stop fighting until either you are gone or we are all dead." Susan smiled despite the fear in her chest. "That should get their attention." "Oh, it will," Jake replied. "Intelligence reports suggest they're already mobilizing additional fleets. They've never had a species refuse their demands before. They're going to make an example of us that will terrify every other world in the galaxy." Alex spoke up from across the room. "Admiral, there's something else. While I was in Council Space, I intercepted some of their communications. They're not just angry about our refusal. They're afraid." Everyone turned to look at him. "Afraid of what?" "Of us," Alex said. "Their entire system is built on fear and the belief that they're unbeatable. If we can stand against them and survive, other species might get ideas. They can't let that happen. Jake nodded slowly. So this isn't just about tribute anymore. This is about whether the Council continues to rule the galaxy or whether something new takes their place. Susan looked around the room at the faces of her fellow officers. They were scared, but they were also determined. Humanity had always been stubborn. They had fought wars against impossible odds before and sometimes won through sheer refusal to give up. "When do we expect them to arrive?" she asked. 6 months, Jake replied. "Maybe less if they really want to make an example of us. But we'll be ready. We've been preparing for this fight our whole lives. We just didn't know it yet." Outside the windows of Ceres Station, the asteroid belt stretched away into darkness. Hidden among those rocks were weapons and warriors that the Council had never imagined. Humanity's secret was about to be revealed, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 months before the Council's deadline, Captain Kevin Ross sat in the command chair of the destroyer USS Vigilance. His ship drifted silently in the shadow of Europa, one of Jupiter's moons. Around him, his crew watched their instruments, with the focus of hunters waiting for prey. "Contact bearing 27 Mark IV, reported Lieutenant Jenny Walsh from the sensor station. "3 ships, Council design. They're running active scans of the inner system." Kevin smiled coldly. The Council had sent scouts ahead of their main fleet. They wanted to see how humans were preparing for the coming war. Kevin was about to give them a very clear answer. "All ships, this is Vigilance," he said into his radio. "Execute flashpoint protocol. Light them up." Across the Jupiter system, 50 human ships broke from their hiding places. They had been waiting in the shadows of moons, inside asteroid fields, and behind the great red spot itself. Now they revealed themselves like wolves emerging from a forest. The Council scouts were caught completely off guard. Their ships were beautiful crystalline vessels that looked more like artwork than weapons. But Kevin knew better than to judge by appearance. These ships could destroy cities with their energy weapons. "Quantum disruptors charging," reported his weapons officer, Lieutenant Carl Baker. "Target lock acquired." "Fire," Kevin ordered. The space around Europa lit up with energy beams and missile trails. Kevin watched on his main screen as humanity's secret weapons struck the enemy ships. The Council vessels raised their shields, confident in their protection. They had never been defeated by a primitive species. That confidence lasted exactly 3 seconds. The quantum disruptor beams hit the enemy shields and did something impossible. Instead of being blocked, the energy passed right through and began tearing the ships apart from inside. The crystalline hulls cracked like ice in a fire. Atmosphere vented into space in glowing streams. 2 of the 3 scout ships died in the first volley. The third tried to run, but Captain Julie Evans and her ship Martian Pride were waiting. Her missiles finished what Kevin had started. "Targets destroyed," Jenny reported. "All enemy vessels confirmed dead." Kevin sat back in his chair. For the first time in human history, they had destroyed Council ships in open combat. It felt good, but he knew this was just the beginning. Hours later, the news reached the Council homeworld of Nexus Prime. High Counselor Zixthon of the Vorthan Empire stood in the great chamber where 12 species had ruled the galaxy for millennia. His 6 arms trembled with rage as he watched the recordings from the destroyed scout ships. "Impossible!" he hissed. His voice echoed off the crystal walls of the chamber. "No primitive species has ever penetrated our shields." Ambassador Veltar of the Zephyrian Empire stepped forward. His 4 eyes glowed brighter than usual, a sign of stress among his people. "The humans have technology we didn't know existed. Our intelligence reports were wrong." Around the chamber, representatives of the 12 Council species murmured among themselves. Some showed fear, others anger. All of them understood what this meant. Their invincibility was a lie. "Silence," Zixthon commanded. "This changes nothing. So the humans have better weapons than expected. We will simply bring more ships." Counselor Merdak of the Aquatic Union raised a tentacle in objection. High Counselor, perhaps we should reconsider. If these humans can fight us effectively, maybe we can negotiate. The chamber erupted in angry voices. Several species had never known defeat. The idea of negotiating with primitives was unthinkable. Zixthan's voice cut through the noise like a blade. There will be no negotiation. For 10,000 years, the Council has ruled through fear. If even one species successfully defies us, others will follow. The humans must be destroyed completely. Every world burned, every ship smashed, every last human sold into slavery or killed. He turned to address the military commanders present. Double the punishment fleet. 5,000 ships. Use planet crackers if necessary. I want the human system turned into a graveyard that will terrify the galaxy for the next 1,000 years. Back in the Sol system, Dr. Lisa Carter worked frantically in her laboratory on Luna Station. She had been intercepting Council communications for weeks, and what she learned made her blood run cold. Admiral Morrison, she called over the intercom. You need to see this immediately. Jake arrived in her lab 10 minutes later, along with General Tony Martinez. Lisa's face was pale as she played back the intercepted transmission from Nexus Prime. They're not just angry, she said. They're terrified. Our victory over their scouts has shaken their entire government. They're mobilizing everything they have. Jake studied the intelligence reports spread across Lisa's desk. How many ships are we looking at? 5,000 confirmed, Lisa replied. Maybe more. And Jake, they're bringing planet crackers, weapons that can split a world in half, Tony whistled low. Our entire fleet is maybe 800 ships if we count every cargo hauler with a missile pod strapped to it. Jake nodded grimly. Then we'll have to be smarter than they are. Lisa, what else can you tell me about their force composition? Mixed species fleet, she said, pulling up tactical displays. Vorthan Empire dreadnoughts, Crystalline Dominion, cruisers, hegemony carriers, and others. The problem is they've never fought as a unified force before. Each species has its own tactics and communication protocols. That's a weakness we can exploit, Tony said. If we can disrupt their coordination, maybe we can take them piecemeal. Jake was already forming plans in his mind. What about our allies? Any word from the resistance movements? Lisa smiled for the first time in weeks. Actually, yes. Our victory over the Scouts has been broadcast across half the galaxy. 3 species have already made contact. The Arcturus Republic wants to send a fleet to help us. The Centauri Federation is offering supplies and safe harbor for our civilian ships. The Council isn't as popular as they pretend to be, Tony observed. How many species are really loyal to them versus how many are just too scared to rebel? That's what we're about to find out, Jake replied. Order all fleet commanders to prepare for Operation Breakout. If the Council wants to make an example of us, we'll make an example of them first. 2 weeks later, Captain Ryan Brooks stood on the bridge of his flagship as the human fleet formed up near Pluto. 200 ships of various sizes and designs hung in space like a metal constellation. Destroyers flew alongside converted cargo. Haulers, military cruisers shared formation with armed mining vessels. It's not the prettiest fleet ever assembled, commented his first officer, Commander Linda Hayes. Maybe not, Ryan replied. But every ship out there is crewed by people who refuse to bow to alien masters. That's worth more than pretty hulls. And fancy weapons. His communication officer looked up from her station. Sir, incoming transmission from Admiral Morrison. Jake's face appeared on the main screen. Behind him, the bridge of Luna Station bustled with activity. Captains, you know the mission. We're taking the fight to Council space. We're going to hit their forward staging areas and supply lines, make them understand that humanity doesn't just defend, we attack. Ryan felt a grin spread across his face. Understood, Admiral. Where do you want us to hit them first? Proxima Centauri, Jake replied. Captain Turner's reconnaissance showed us a major supply depot there. If we can destroy it, we'll cripple their logistics for the entire invasion. The T. Human fleet turned away from the sun and accelerated toward the stars. Behind them, Earth and the other human worlds continued their preparations for war. Ahead of them lay Council space, where no human ship had ever traveled. As they jumped to faster-than-light speed, Ryan looked at his crew. They were scared but determined. They knew they might not come back from this mission, but they also knew that someone had to take the first step. Someone had to show the galaxy that the Council could be beaten. Humanity had always been good at taking that first step into the unknown. Now, they would take it into war. Fleet Commander Karvesh of the Hegemony stood on the bridge of his flagship as 5,000 Council ships emerged from faster-than-light travel at the edge of the Sol system. His 4 massive arms crossed over his chest as he studied the tactical. Displays! This should be simple. 1 primitive species against the combined might of 12 civilizations. Status report, he commanded in his deep, rumbling voice. Long-range sensors detect approximately 800 human vessels, reported his tactical officer. They appear to be concentrated around their 3rd and 4th planets. Karvesh's mandibles clicked together in what passed for laughter among his species. 800 ships against 5,000. This will be over quickly. He was wrong. The first sign of trouble came when his advanced squadrons reached Neptune's orbit. Captain Alex Turner's stealth ships had been waiting there for weeks, hidden, in the planet's radiation shadow. They struck without warning, quantum disruptors tearing through Council shields like they were made of paper. "Ambush at Neptune," came the panicked report from the front lines. "We're losing ships. Their weapons are cutting right through our defenses." Karvesh leaned forward in his command throne. "Impossible! Our shields have never been penetrated by primitive technology." But the reports kept coming in. Human ships were appearing from everywhere. They rose from asteroid fields, emerged from behind moons, and dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect attack formations. The asteroid belt that should have been empty space was revealed to be a massive fortress network. Admiral Jake Morrison watched the battle unfold from Luna Station's command center. His face was calm, but his hands gripped the edge of the tactical display table. This was humanity's last chance. If they lost here, there would be no tomorrow for any human world. "Enemy fleet is spreading out to attack multiple targets," reported Captain Lisa Carter from her position at the intelligence station. "They're trying to hit Earth, Mars, and the outer colonies simultaneously." "Let them spread out," Jake replied. "The wider they stretch their formation, the easier it will be to defeat them piecemeal." The battle began in earnest when the Council's main force reached Mars orbit. Captain Julie Evans commanded the Martian defense grid from her flagship, the Red Storm. Around her, 200 human ships faced off against 1,500 Council vessels in the largest space battle in recorded history. "All ships, this is Evans," she broadcast to her fleet. "Remember what we're fighting for. Every human who has ever lived, every human who will ever be born. They all depend on what we do here today." The space between Mars and its moons erupted in weapons fire. Council energy beams lanced out like sword strokes, while human missiles swarmed through the darkness like angry wasps. Ships on both sides died in brilliant explosions that lit up the void. But the humans had advantages the Council didn't expect. Their ships were smaller and faster. Their crews had trained for this exact battle. Most importantly, they were fighting for their home. Colonel Amy Foster led her Marine boarding teams against disabled Council vessels. Her soldiers moved through alien corridors with grim determination, capturing enemy technology and taking prisoners. Every ship they captured was one less weapon pointed at Earth. "This is insane," muttered one of her sergeants as they fought their way through a crystalline Dominion cruiser. "We're actually winning." "Don't jinx it," Amy replied, blasting an alien warrior with her plasma rifle. "We've got a long way to go before this is over." The tide of battle turned when Dr. Benjamin Wright activated humanity's most secret weapon. Hidden deep within the sun itself, was a massive energy collector that had been under construction for 30 years. The Sol cannon was designed to use the star's own power as a weapon. Targeting the enemy flagship, Ben reported from his control station on Mercury. Initiating solar tap sequence. A beam of pure stellar energy erupted from the sun's surface and crossed the solar system in seconds. It struck Karvesh's command ship with the force of a miniature star. The massive vessel, larger than most human cities, simply ceased to exist. The death of their fleet commander threw the Council forces into chaos. Different species began following their own tactical doctrines instead of working together. Some tried to retreat while others pressed forward. The unified assault became a confused brawl. Admiral Morrison saw his chance. All fleet units execute storm protocol, concentrate fire on their heavy cruisers, break their formation completely. Human ships that had been fighting defensively suddenly went on the attack. They swarmed the larger Council vessels like pack hunters bringing down giants. The quantum disruptors that had seemed impossible just months ago now tore through enemy ships with deadly efficiency. Lieutenant Kelly Morrison, the Admiral's daughter, led her strike team against the Council's communication relays. Her small ships moved like ghosts through the battle, planting explosives and jamming enemy signals. Without coordination, the Council fleet became nothing more than individual ships fighting for their own survival. Communications are down across half their fleet, Kelly reported over a crackling radio transmission. They can't coordinate their attacks anymore. But the Council still had numbers on their side. For every enemy ship the humans destroyed, 2 more took its place. The battle raged for 18 hours, leaving both fleets exhausted and bloodied. The end came when Captain Ryan Brooks made a decision that saved humanity and cost him everything. His ship, the Earth's Pride, was heavily damaged and running low on ammunition. But he saw an opportunity that might not come again. The Council's remaining command ships had clustered together, trying to re-establish control over their scattered forces. Ryan pointed his ship at the center of that formation and pushed his engines past their safety limits. "This is Brooks to all ships," he broadcast on all frequencies. "It's been an honor serving with you. Tell my wife I love her." The Earth's Pride accelerated toward the enemy formation, her hull glowing red from engine heat. Council ships tried to stop her, but Ryan's path was true. His ship struck the center of the enemy command cluster and detonated her reactor core. The explosion took out 6 Council capital ships and left their entire fleet leaderless. The surviving enemy vessels began to retreat toward the edge of the system. They had come to make humanity surrender. Instead, they were running for their lives. Admiral Morrison stood in Luna Station's command center, watching the enemy ships flee. Around him, his officers cheered and embraced each other. They had won. Against impossible odds, humanity had defeated the greatest military force in the galaxy. But Jake didn't celebrate. He knew this was just the beginning. The Council would not accept defeat. They would return with more ships, larger fleets, and deadlier weapons. "Send a message to all human colonies," he ordered. "Tell them we won the first battle. But the war is just starting." Dr. Carter looked up from her station, her face glowing with excitement. "Admiral, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. The news of our victory is spreading. Species that have been enslaved for centuries are beginning to rebel." Jake allowed himself a small smile. Maybe humanity's real victory wasn't destroying Council ships. Maybe it was showing the galaxy that the Council could be beaten. "Prep the fleet for deep space operations," he ordered. "If the Council wants a war, we'll take it to their home systems. It's time to show them what happens when you threaten humanity." Outside Luna Station's windows, the wreckage of the great battle drifted in Earth's orbit. Council ships and human vessels lay broken, together in the void. But among the debris, human rescue ships moved to save their crews and recover their technology. The Council had come to Sol System expecting to find a weak species ready to surrender. Instead, they found warriors who refused to bow to anyone. The balance of power in the galaxy had shifted, and nothing would ever be the same again. 1 year after the Battle of Sol, Fleet Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his flagship as 10,000 human ships prepared to attack the Council homeworld of Nexus Prime. The fleet stretched across space like a metal galaxy, carrying the war to the heart of Council space. The past year had transformed humanity from defenders to liberators. Every species that had suffered under Council rule now fought alongside human forces. The Arcturus Republic had sent their fast attack ships. The Centauri Federation provided their shield technology. Dozens of other civilizations had joined what the galaxy now called the Freedom Alliance. Final approach to Nexus Prime, reported Navigation Officer Pete Rogers. Enemy fleet detected. 5,000 ships defending the planet. Jake studied the tactical display. The Council had pulled back their forces from across the galaxy to make their last stand at their capital world. It would be the largest space battle in galactic history. "All fleet commanders, this is Morrison," he broadcast to his massive armada. "Today we finish what the Council started when they demanded tribute from free beings. Today we end 10,000 years of tyranny, Captain." Susan Blake, now commanding the dreadnought Retribution, smiled grimly as she received the Admiral's message. Her ship was one of humanity's new capital vessels, built with technology captured from defeated Council fleets. She had come a long way from commanding hidden asteroid bases. "Target the planetary defense grid," she ordered her weapons officer. "Let's open a hole for the ground assault forces." The battle began when the two fleets met in the space between Nexus Prime and its moon. Council ships of 12 different species fought with desperate fury, knowing that defeat here meant the end of their empire. But they faced an enemy they had never encountered before. United free peoples fighting for their liberty. Dr. Lisa Carter, now serving as humanity's chief diplomat, watched the battle from the bridge of the diplomatic vessel New Hope. Around her, representatives from 50 different species worked together to coordinate the attack. The Council had tried to divide the galaxy through fear. The Freedom Alliance had united it through hope. "The hegemony fleet is breaking," reported an intelligence officer. "Their commander is requesting terms for surrender." Lisa nodded. "Accept their surrender, but keep them under guard. We'll need their testimony when we put the Council leaders on trial." The space battle raged for 12 hours, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Council's forces were outnumbered and outgunned. More importantly, they were fighting to preserve a system of oppression while their enemies fought for freedom. General Tony Martinez led the ground assault on Nexus Prime itself. His forces landed in massive transport ships, while orbital bombardment cleared the way. The planet's surface was a maze of crystal towers and energy barriers, but human engineers had learned to crack alien defenses. "Resistance is lighter than expected," Tony reported to the fleet. "Most of the planetary garrison seems to have surrendered already. I think they are tired of fighting for the Council." The war's climax came when Jake's forces reached the Great Chamber where the Council had ruled for millennia. High Counselor Zixthan and the remaining Council members had barricaded themselves inside, protected by the last of their loyal guards. Captain Kevin Ross led the assault team that broke down the chamber's defenses. His soldiers moved through corridors filled with alien artwork and symbols of power that were older than human civilization. But age and beauty couldn't stop determined warriors fighting for justice. "The Great Chamber is secured," Kevin reported. "We have the Council leaders in custody." Jake entered the chamber that had been the center of galactic power for 10,000 years. It was vast and beautiful, with walls of living crystal that pulsed with inner light. At its center sat 12 thrones where the species of the Council had decided the fate of billions. Zixthan was still alive, his 6 arms bound with energy restraints. His eyes burned with hatred as he looked at the human admiral who had destroyed his empire. "You have won this day," the alien leader hissed. "But you are still primitive barbarians. You cannot rule a galaxy. You lack the wisdom and the strength." Jake looked down at the creature that had once commanded star fleets and controlled the destiny of countless worlds. We're not here to rule anyone. We're here to set them free. Freedom is chaos, Zixthan replied. Without the Council's guidance, the galaxy will tear itself apart in war. Maybe, Jake said. But that's their choice to make. No one has the right to enslave others for their own good. Dr. Carter entered the chamber carrying a data pad with the Alliance's terms. The Articles of Surrender are ready for signing. All Council military forces will be disbanded. All enslaved species will be freed. All Council leaders will stand trial for crimes against galactic civilization. She looked around the chamber that had been the source of so much suffering. This building will be converted into a memorial for all the species that died under Council rule. The trial of the Council leaders took 6 months. Representatives from hundreds of worlds testified about centuries of oppression, slavery, and genocide. The evidence was overwhelming. Most of the Council members were sentenced to life, imprisonment on isolated worlds. A few, like Zixthan, were executed for their crimes. But the real victory wasn't in punishing the guilty. It was in what came after. Jake stood before the new Galactic Assembly on the first day of its existence. Representatives from over 300 species filled the chamber that had once been reserved for 12. They were equals now, each world having one vote regardless of their military strength or technological advancement. We gather today not as rulers and subjects, Jake addressed the assembly, but as free beings working together for the good of all. Humanity doesn't seek to replace the Council's tyranny with our own. We seek to build something new, something better. President Maria Santos, now serving as Earth's representative to the Assembly, stood to address the gathering. The age of empires is over. The age of cooperation has begun. Captain Alex Turner, now commanding deep space exploration fleets, sent regular reports from the galaxy's outer rim. Species that had hidden from the Council for centuries were emerging to join the growing alliance. The galaxy was larger and more diverse than anyone had imagined. Lieutenant Kelly Morrison, promoted to captain after her heroics in the war, led humanitarian missions to former Council slave worlds. Her ships carried food, medicine, and the technology needed to rebuild shattered civilizations. It's going to take generations to undo the damage the Council caused, she reported during one of her missions. But we'll get there. One world at a time. Commander Susan Blake returned to the asteroid belt, but now she was building schools and hospitals instead of weapons. The secret military bases were being converted into research stations and trade posts. The tools of war were becoming the tools of peace. Jake stood in his office on the space station that orbited Nexus Prime, looking out at the stars. A year ago, he had been preparing to defend humanity against impossible odds. Now, he was helping to rebuild a galaxy. His aide, Lieutenant Pete Rogers, entered with the daily reports. Sir, the Vegan Republic has agreed to join the Assembly. That makes 250 member worlds. Any word from the Outer Rim surveys? Jake asked. Captain Turner reports first contact with a species called the Wanderers. They're nomads, who've been fleeing Council expansion for centuries. They want to come home. Jake smiled. Every day brought news of another species joining the Alliance, another world choosing freedom over fear. It wasn't always easy. Some groups couldn't get along. Some worlds wanted to restart old conflicts, but they were working through their problems together instead of having solutions imposed by force. Sir, Pete continued, there's one more thing. The Assembly has voted to rename this system. Oh? What are they calling it? The Hope System, Pete replied, in honor of the species that showed the galaxy that freedom was possible. Jake thought about that name, Hope. It was a good word. It was what humanity had offered to the galaxy when everyone else had given up. It was what they would continue to offer as long as free beings faced oppression anywhere in the stars. He looked out at the space lanes where ships from hundreds of worlds traveled freely. Merchant vessels from the Centauri Federation flew alongside exploration ships from the Arcturus Republic. Former enemies worked together to build a better future. The Council had demanded tribute from humanity. In return, humanity had given the galaxy something far more valuable: the chance to be free. The war was over. The real work of peace had just begun, and Jake Morrison, who had started as a defender of one small world, was now helping to build a civilization that spanned the stars.